Hi, and welcome to News You Can Use. This is the television show that we try to figure out what's going on in Red Clay that will be useful to our viewers. And on today's show, we're going to present you with a couple of different opportunities. One is we'll be talking about a grant that we've secured, which will be offering some scholarship opportunities to Red Clay students who are considering teaching as a profession. And secondly, we're going to talk with someone from Nemours who does research into literacy and the important impacts that can have on your life. Red Clay's annual Family Resource Fair is coming up, but this year we've partnered with the News Journal and we're going to be offering a literacy fair as well. So in addition to the normal activities and information and everything else that you're going to see at the resource fair, we're going to have some good information about the importance of reading, how to determine if your child is on track to be a good reader, and what you can do if your child may need some help in that area. So we hope that you stay with us because we've got a great show here today on News You Can Use. Hi, and welcome back to News You Can Use. First up, we're going to talk about the Educator Preparation Partnership Grant. That's a mouthful. It's in partnership with the Indian River School District, and what it's going to do is help Red Clay identify high school students who are considering teaching as a career. Now, this grant was secured by the district's Office of Novice Educator Development, which is a fancy word for helping our new teachers and mentoring our new teachers through that first year, that first difficult year of teaching. And here from the office is Stacy Strajewski, who's going to tell us about the grant and some opportunities for people. Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. First of all, what are the goals of this grant? What's Red Clay looking to do here?
Well, there's several goals, but the big overarching goal is for Red Clay to really get some educators who are new to the profession that have been well trained to be highly qualified teachers who can make sure that their students have high levels of achievement.
Okay.
So that's the main goal.
Okay.
Within that goal, there are some sub-goals, I guess you would say. One is that the university really wants to create partnerships between Red Clay wants to create partnerships between local universities so that we can work with the local universities to really produce some diverse, underrepresented, high-quality teacher candidates.
Okay.
So that's one goal.
Okay.
Another goal is that we want to really expand and diversify the teacher residency program that's already in place.
Okay.
We're trying to develop exemplary teachers in areas of critical needs.
Okay.
Another one of our goals is the Grow Your Own Teacher Pipeline. This is one that I'm really excited about because I was a Red Clay graduate and now I teach in Red Clay and this will be my 25th year. But what we're trying to do now is create a pipeline where we can develop teachers who are going to be more racially, culturally, and linguistically representative of the students that we teach.
Okay. Terrific.
And so we're trying to do that using our own Red Clay students who want to be educators. And really the other goal that we have is to improve and increase teacher retention.
Okay.
We want the teachers that we have, those great teachers, to stay in the profession and stay in Red Clay.
So if I'm a Red Clay student and I'm thinking about teaching as a career, what opportunities does this grant, if any, offer me?
Oh my gosh, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. One thing we're working on is the possibility of a professional development school.
Okay.
And actually a couple professional development schools where would be locations within Red Clay where students would be able to work in classrooms from their freshman year through their senior year. So they'd get a lot of time, the freshman year maybe 2 to 3 times a week, sophomore year the same thing. By junior year, they'd be 3 to 4 times a week in the same school.
Okay.
With a possibility to substitute on Fridays so they could make a little money.
While they're in high school?
While they're in high school. Well, no, while they're in college.
While
This is
they're in
once they've
college.
graduated.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
And then they would be able to substitute on Fridays, and then their senior year of college, they would be part of a year-long internship.
Okay.
which is something that we have a partnership with Wilmington University on now. And we actually have several of the students who've graduated from that program who are now very successful red clay teachers.
Now tell us how that differs from the traditional student teaching program or whatever that you have in college when you're going to be a teacher.
Well, in a traditional program, the students may start in the beginning of the year or they may start in the middle of the year. They don't spend the entire year with a teacher working side by side. It's pretty much a semester program. With this year-long residency program, they start on the first teacher day of the school year and go through the last teacher day. So they see everything from setting up your classroom to assessing students to forming groups, and they really become a part of the classroom. They become a co-teacher, essentially.
Okay, great. And is this new, or do we have any students doing this program right now?
Well, the year-long residency isn't new.
Okay.
We've been doing the year-long residency. This is the 4th year.
Okay.
We started at Ritchie Elementary, and now we have placements at Ritchie and Shortledge. I believe right now there's 6 students in the program.
Oh, okay, great. And have we hired some of these folks?
We have, and they're doing a good job.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Talk a little bit about, and we want, the district has a goal. One of the goals of this this program is to increase as you said, the culturally, the linguistically diverse
Right.
teacher ranks in Red Clay to better represent our communities.
Right.
Yeah. Are there critical areas that we're hoping to fill? You said science. I think
There
science.
are, yes, middle school or middle school and high school. So basically, secondary science, math, English. We're looking at world language, ELL, bilingual education. So there are several different areas that are really critical needs areas right now that we are targeting in on.
Okay. And does this grant include scholarships?
It does. There is a scholarship that we're referring to now as the Appleseed Scholarship. It's available this year for current seniors who want to become educators, and we are really focusing on students who want to become educators in those critical needs areas, but who also represent some of our underrepresented population in our teacher staff right now.
Okay. Okay. How much money is the grant worth? How much?
Well, between us and Indian River, it's about $591,000
For 3 years?
for 3 years.
That's a nice size grant. And this was awarded to Red Clay when?
At the end of the school year, last school year.
Okay. What should a student do, or who can they contact if they're interested?
They need to contact their guidance counselor, and they also, there's a little bit of a caveat to it. If they receive a scholarship, we are going to require that they attend programs on Saturdays. It's one Saturday a month from December through May, and it's called the Saturdays, I think Delaware's Best Saturday Program. And what they will do when they're in that program is they'll learn some of the things that are required to be a teacher in the 21st century. So they'll learn about using technology in their classrooms. They'll learn about using data to inform instruction, how to work with colleagues in a PLC. So they'll learn all kinds of strategies for teaching, but they will also be provided some guidance in how to navigate from high school to college successfully as well.
Okay. Why is that first year so tough?
I think the first year is so tough because there's so much to learn and so much to do, and it's really overwhelming, especially to someone who comes out of college and maybe didn't know what was involved in teaching. They thought they knew from watching their teachers, but you know, we never really know until we actually step foot in the classroom.
It's like you don't learn how to drive until you get your license.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of the teachers in the program that in the year-long residency that we've talked to, we've asked them in December, if this was a real a regular student teaching placement, you'd be leaving now, would you be ready? And they've all said, oh my goodness, no.
Okay.
But when they start, after they've had a year-long residency, they start, their first year is actually almost like their second year of teaching.
Oh, that's great.
Because they've had a year already now, and it's been a year under the guidance of a highly qualified mentor teacher.
And is there a limit on the number of students that we can have in that program, or is it?
Yeah, there will be.
Depending on interest?
It's going to depend on interest,
Okay.
but probably no more than 10 that would be in that program.
Okay. Okay, but 10 new teachers that feel like they're starting their second year when they're starting their first year. That's big.
Right.
That really helps. And what universities do we have these agreements with?
We have the agreement for year-long residency right now with Wilmington University.
Okay.
But we are working with the University of Delaware too on some other things that we're hoping to get in place.
Okay, great. And again, if students are interested, they should contact their guidance counselor. And what's the name of the scholarship again?
It's the Appleseed Scholarship.
The Appleseed Scholarship. So maybe we have some future teachers out there watching, and we'd love to have you consider Red Clay.
Yeah, and then the whole goal is once they've taken the scholarship and completed the program through either University of Delaware or WilmU, then we would ask them to apply it in Red Clay, kind of giving back after they've been given the scholarship. And if they've successfully completed the program and all the requirements for teacher certification, then hopefully there'll be a job here waiting for them in Red Clay.
We talked about EdTV might want to follow a teacher and show the public what it's like to be a teacher and all the different things that go into it. I think there might be not I don't know if misunderstandings is the right word, but maybe we can increase people's understanding of all that goes into being a teacher every day in the classroom. Not only in getting to know your students, but getting them to learn the content.
Absolutely.
There's a lot going on.
There is so much going on.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Stacy, for coming out today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll get some of our seniors to apply for this scholarship.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Well, stay with us, because next up we're going to talk about an annual event here in Red Clay, which has a new element to it this year, and we think that it's going to be a terrific Saturday for our residents. So please come back to News You Can Use. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, I'm from Blue Hood Stone Barns. We brought a meal for you, and I'm here to serve it to you.
Okay, great. Come in.
Zucchini carbonara, made from zucchini that was harvested earlier this morning.
Again?
Hey, Dan Barber.
You have room for a little bit more?
Come on in.
Brochettes with sausage. So when we made that zucchini carbonara, they're the end pieces of the zucchini, and then the cores that we cut away, not to mention zucchini flour. Usually those get thrown out. We use them to create an entire second dish. Does that,
Again?
I'm here to bring you your third course. It's the vines from your zucchini.
We'll have a little zucchini stem pasta, a different experience of zucchini. When we start to think differently about our food, we can get a lot more out of it.
This is delicious.
What do you think we can make out of this? 40% of food in America is never eaten. Cook it, store it, share it. Visit SaveTheFood.com.
You are watching EdTV.
Fire!
You're watching EdTV.
It's me, Eddie McGrath, the science guy.
You're watching ATV. You are watching EdTV.
You are watching EdTV. You're watching EdTV. Watch, learn, grow.
Hi, and welcome back to News You Can Use. Next up, we're going to talk about the Red Clay's 11th Annual Family Resource Fair, which is going to be held on Saturday, November 4th at John Dickinson High School from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. This year, Red Clay has partnered with the News Journal to include the latest in their Imagine Delaware series. It's going to be a literacy fair sponsored by Nemours. The literacy fair will include guest celebrity readers and speakers who can offer parents tips on how to help your child if they're having a difficulty with reading. And here to talk to us about that today is Candia Lewis, a research scientist from Nemours. Welcome, Ms. Lewis.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, okay. Now, is this the first Imagine Delaware series that Nemours has sponsored?
No, we actually sponsored another forum earlier this year.
Okay. And is there something about literacy that's important to Nemours? Why this Imagine Delaware?
Absolutely. So reading is actually one of the single strongest predictors of adult health.
Of adult health.
Of adult health.
Really? Not
Yes.
just how a child's going to do. I mean, we're used to hearing that.
Yes, no. So studies have actually found that adults with lower reading abilities are less likely to participate in preventative health care, like screenings, which we know are helpful to improve health outcomes.
Okay.
They are more likely, adults with lower reading abilities are more likely to be hospitalized, and they're also less likely to know how to manage their chronic illnesses.
Okay.
And overall, compared to adults with higher reading abilities, adults with lower reading abilities have worse physical and psychosocial health. And what I mean by psychosocial health is your mental health, your social, emotional well-being. So there's a strong link between not just in children, which we'll talk about, but adults and their health if they are poor readers. And one of the ways you can think about that, if you go to your doctor and they provide you with a treatment plan or instructions on how to help manage something that you have, an illness you have, or they're preparing you for some procedure, you're usually getting that in text format, right? So if you're getting that information in text and you have a difficult time reading or understanding what you're reading, it's going to make it more difficult for you to follow those instructions as your physician recommends that you follow them.
Okay. Now, are these folks who are poor readers, or they just or don't want to read, or have you done research on that?
So generally, these are individuals. So the studies that I kind of referenced earlier, they give them reading tests, and we have a large population of individuals in our country who are functionally illiterate or who have poor reading skills, and for a variety of reasons. And so one of the things that we're doing at Nemours, I'm part of a team with Nemours Reading Bright Start, and Nemours Reading Bright Start is an early literacy initiative, and we're focused on child reading, making sure that all children become successful readers, because we know of this connection with reading and later outcomes. Health outcomes and general outcomes.
Yeah, I didn't know about the health. I mean, that's very interesting. And I'm not an educator, but the common wisdom that I've often heard is that if a child is not reading up to grade level by the end of third grade, they have unfortunately, a much more likelihood of not being successful in school and maybe even dropping out. I mean, does that research hold? Is that true?
That's absolutely true. So if a child is not reading by the time they're in third or fourth grade, they have a 10% chance of not being able to read on grade level. And so what we focus on is early intervention and prevention. So what we have found with our work, we have programs and curricula that address children who are at risk for reading failure early on, so in pre-K. And our research has shown that there is a wide gap between children who are already in pre-kindergarten with these early literacy skills, these pre-reading skills that we know are important for later reading. There's already a gap between them and their peers.
At what age? 4?
4, 3,
3 and 4, and we can tell already whether or not this child is going to have problems reading.
Exactly. So our
and is it the way they talk? Is it the way they hear? Is it the way they see? Can it be any of those things?
That's a great question, and absolutely, there are multiple reasons why a child may have difficulty with reading. And what we do is screeners to similar to what you do in healthcare. You do preventative screeners, and you do these early literacy screeners to identify these children who don't have these skills yet developed, and our curricula is used to help them improve those skills so that they get on the track for reading success.
Now, does Nemours go into schools and test these children? How do you meet these 3 and 4-year-olds?
Yes, so we have had that in the past where we've had a team of individuals going into schools, but the screeners that we use, what we do now is more of a professional development program in which we have an instructor who goes out and teaches teachers how to give these assessments and how to implement this curricula that we have found helps children get on the path to reading success. So getting back up to their same age peers in these early literacy skills. So we teach teachers to do this, and teachers can go into the classroom, give their child these screeners, and provide them with that support if they need it. We also have a website, the readingbrightstart.org website.
Okay.
And that website has a lot of information for parents who it's intended for birth through 8 because again we're focused on early childhood. Activities that parents can do at home with their children to support their reading abilities. These articles for parents to read about literacy and health, literacy and all sorts of topics.
Okay.
And on the front page, when you when you get to the home page of the readingbrightstart.org website, there's a preschool reading screener that parents of 3 to 5-year-olds can take, and it asks parents about their child's early literacy skills. You know, does your child know letter names and letter sounds, those kind of things.
Okay.
And after parents complete that, they get a customized action plan that lets them know where their child is really on this.
Oh, that's very useful.
On this, yes, exactly. Parents are taking this screener all over because it's available all over the country and actually outside of the
And
U.S.
let's say that again. Then it's the Reading Bright.
So it's readingbrightstart.org.
Readingbrightstart.org. We'll put that on the bottom of the screen for folks.
Great. So that website, if they go there, parents of 3 to 5-year-olds can take the preschool reading screener, complete those questions, about 31 items, and once they finish, they'll get that customized action plan of not only their child's strengths, where they're doing really well, the areas that might need some improvement, and what they can do to help support those specific skills.
And are you going to be offering screenings at the literacy fair? Will we have some of that information for parents?
I believe there are. I'm not
if we're
sure
going to do the
of
whole
all
screening.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the specifics. I believe the website will be available, and there
Right.
will be people to walk
Okay.
parents through, because you can do the screen on your iPhone, your phone, your any mobile device, iPad, or any of those kind of devices. And so if parents are there, we can walk them through to complete the screener, and then they'll get that action plan.
Is there certain populations or challenges? I mean, is it true that boys have a tougher time?
So we do, sure. So we do find there are gender differences in literacy development, and that's pretty much, it starts pretty early that you see girls tend to be a little more vocal, and their vocabulary tends to develop. It tends to peter out, but there is some of that, and so we may see more boys with difficulties. But yes, there are some gender differences in reading, and it could be, there are multiple reasons why we think that might be the way we socialize with different genders. And there's some research on, looking at the brain and science of reading.
Now tell us a little bit about Nemours.
So Nemours is, as I mentioned, it's I think I mentioned, it's an child health system. So we have hospitals here, a hospital in Delaware, AI DuPont, which people may be familiar with. We have pediatric primary care locations here in Delaware, in Pennsylvania, New Jersey. We also have a hospital in Florida and primary care locations there. And so Nemours is really invested in making sure that we have these children become literate adults, because again, it has such an impact on adult health.
Nemours has an excellent website.
Yes, if you go to the nemours.org, there's so much information that you can find there about all hosts of subjects. So that's also helpful. Kids Health is a part of Nemours, and we have a website that specifically, you can go there as a child, a teenager, parent, a teacher. Educators can access that information and get tons of information about illnesses or whatever they're looking for with regards to health. And then again, the readingbrightstart.org website has all of that information about literacy.
Okay. Now, are there things you talked about that parents can get tips and an action plan when they do this screening? I mean, tell us a little bit about what are some of the simple things that parents can do if they either to encourage reading, reinforce good reading skills, or bring some reading skills up to speed.
Absolutely. So it depends again on the child's age. So we have tips by age range. So in early childhood, you can start as early, we say start from birth right away. Talking to your child, exposure to language is a really strong support for later reading development. Just having that exposure to language, use of language, so children get comfortable, because oral language is one of those components of early literacy development that is related to later reading ability. So talking with your child while you're dressing your child, pointing out, print awareness is really important, and identifying the difference between letters and pictures, for example. So while you're at breakfast, you can, talk about the cereal box and point to the word, show child how to read from left to right. Just those things, and integrate that into your daily routine. We have specific activities that you can do as well. A lot of things that you can just do from things around the house, things that you don't have to necessarily buy. And we also have book recommendations. So book reading to your child is extremely important. And repeated reading. So some parents, again, this is not interesting for me to read this one book over and over again, but for children, it's actually very helpful in developing their reading ability. So reading that book that your child loves, getting them involved and interested in reading, making reading a fun time, not a time where we have to think about skill and drill, and making reading fun, and making sure that you're modeling that as well.
Now, does a child, when you talk about, we always talk about in education that the parent is the first teacher.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And you can pick that up even as young as 3. And that there's a lot that parents can do to ensure that their child is successful in later years. Does a child get that same vocabulary, help, and those other things by watching a video?
So they are doing research on this. And what we are finding, and what the research is showing, is interactive engagement is really, really helpful. There's a lot of research coming out now on play-based kind of, making reading fun or interacting dramas, and getting that creative juices flowing that you don't necessarily get from watching a video, right? That's more passive knowledge, not active. And so that's great if that has to happen a few times, of course. We have busy schedules, but interactive.
It doesn't take the place.
It doesn't take the place of interacting with another person.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm lucky because my son will not see this, but I tricked him into reading. What happened was he was like in the beginning of 4th grade and behind in reading. So I got some comic books, put him in the back seat of the car, and while he was driving around, he picked them up and started reading them. Just because, it wasn't like sitting him down telling him you have to read from 10:30 to 11. So there has to be something there to ways that you can make it fun or not seem like a punishment.
Exactly, because if reading then becomes associated with that negative, this is work, then you're going to likely avoid it especially if you're a struggling reader. And think about our children who are struggling readers. Like you mentioned, your son was having more difficulty. There's embarrassment that comes with that, frustration, and we see that come out, so you avoid that work, or you have behavioral outbursts, and nervousness. You don't want to be called on in class to read something when you're struggling as a reader. And that emotional toll has an impact on your health. A lot of times we'll see children coming to the nurse and saying that they have headaches or stomach aches, or telling their parents they don't feel well and they don't want to go to school. And oftentimes times we find that that's related to an underlying reading difficulty.
Okay.
That emotion, that difficulty with the reading is manifesting in these negative health outcomes and stress.
So we'll see folks from Nemours at the literacy fair?
Yes, absolutely. Nemours is very excited about this partnering with the News Journal and this initiative to focus on literacy.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you so much for having me.
And please join us next time on News You Can Use. Thanks very much.